use the capital to switch into different businesses, you can't get it from the bank because you're having not so good year, and you don't have it in your cash flow because it all went to taxes.
That really tells it all. I mean,
So the question comes down, why do you want to stay in business?
why you get into business. Yeah, and then who's hurting the middle class? I mean, if you can't grow your business and you won't be able to hire people, who's getting hurt?
Yeah, I am the middle class.
I am, yeah.
They may call me the 1% because but I'm not the 1%, guys. I'm the middle class.
I like that definition of the middle class when they talk about it to be in dollars and cents, because everyone thinks they're in the middle class, but I don't think that's who they're talking about.
No, like we said, like myself, when I was running my own business, you take out a little bit to live on, you know, but so much goes back in or goes to the government, and it really restricts.
There's no other way to grow. Yeah, enough said.
Well, there are a lot of small businesses that are run on the side. My wife and I had 2 small businesses. In 2008, we had to let them go. And the reason we had to let them go was through the whole banking issue where they lowered your line of credit. You use your line of credit to float yourself during the slow times. Had no choice. You can pump your own personal funds into it. You know, our family, our home income into it, which we did for nearly a year, hoping for, you know, something better, but you just have to give it up. So there are a lot of companies out there that are you know, run on the side and not exclusive of. But we had upwards of 8 employees.
And that goes back to the regular type of side we did this week. You know, the Obamacare, all the new regulations, and Dodd-Frank, and that's you know, it's made it very tough for credit. And I take it further. The massive deficit spending, debt that the federal government's racking up, is drying up credit too, because they're taking it all, and then
all of a sudden Barney Frank's worried about the credit when he was the one who caused the problem in the housing industry?
Yeah, I have, you might have heard me say this, but I have 4 general points that I think would bring certainty out of Washington, D.C. and help restore some of this confidence that's been eroded at the business and consumer level. And the number 1 is we've got to get our federal deficit heading south, spending. We've got to get it under control. It's not sustainable. It's morally wrong. You know, borrowing money from China and elsewhere. It's just worse. We're going to be worse than Greece. We're headed into if we don't, we'll be a debt crisis where the dollar will be worthless and things fall apart. And that's I mean, I think that is. And number 2, we're talking about common sense regulatory reform. That means repeal Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, putting harness on the EPA is one. And I do a lot of work in that area since I'm chairman of the subcommittee that has jurisdiction of the EPA on the water side. And trying to pass several bills now out of that committee. They're one of the 40 bills now that Speaker Baker talks about that are getting moldy over there in the Senate. They won't take them up. And then the third thing is, of course, real tax reform, lower rates that's permanent, that encourages investment and growth. And that means also change our corporate taxes and also look at a territorial system where it's easier for companies that business overseas to bring those profits back, because if you don't have capital to invest, you can't grow your business, create jobs. And the 4th thing is an energy policy that encourages the responsible development of our natural resources here in this country, which we're finding out we're blessed with. And you can't have an economy that needs to grow 4 or 5% a year, and you need to have an energy supply that's affordable and reliable, or you're not going to have it to fuel it. So I think if you do those 4 things and do it right, this economy takes off. There's a lot of kind of demand out there. I know Lee and Keith and you guys, want to do more, but you can't right now because you're being and strangled. And so that's what we're trying to do, and that's why this election's so important, because it's determine what direction you want to go. You want bigger government, more bureaucracy, more centralization on Washington D.C., or do you want a little bit smaller government that, you know, trusts the American people to use their money the way they see fit?
Well, I think in the state of Ohio, what we need to make sure here coming up to this election is not to allow the current administration to take credit for the improvements that we're seeing in the state of Ohio under John Kasich, because they will. They'll say it's their policies that are making the unemployment rate drop in Ohio, and that's not true.
Yeah, the governor's jobs program, the governor's initiative to eliminate red tape, and I also come to that with what's on the energy side, the Utica shale development. Billions of dollars have been coming in, especially Eastern Ohio. They're coming in this far, and Ashland County's seeing that. Mm-hmm. We're seeing two new steel plants running in Youngstown and Lorraine because of the massive pipe requirement steel for the drilling. You know, all sectors, you know, the service sectors benefit from this, and you know, I'm convinced we can develop this energy resource and protect the environment at the same time. I actually held a hearing in my committee last December, and it was kind of interesting. We had the EPA director from Pennsylvania and Oklahoma and some other people, and you know, everybody's out there attacking fracking, and they're really misinformed, because there's been over 1.2 million, 1.3 fracking operations in the United States in the last 50, 60 years. Now granted, those are vertical, not horizontal, but it's the same principle, it's the same procedure really, and there hasn't been one instance where fracking itself has contaminated a water aquifer. Where there's been some instances of water aquifer contamination, you know, it's from basically two areas. One is not getting that well constructed right and cemented right, you get sealed. Now you think about that. You drill a well, now you get that borehole, and you know, the water table's, you know, 300 feet, 400 feet maximum. Most of them are, you know, 100 to 200 feet. And we're going down and recovering the hydrocarbons at 4,000 to 8,000 feet deep. And Mother Nature took care of a lot of that, because if that was the case, but down there at those levels, there's hydrocarbons, oil and gas, and salt water, and all that's down there anyways. That would naturally would have come up. But Mother Nature's had, you know, took care of that by the geology. So the only way you can get up there is along the borehole. And that's why it's so important to make sure that those are built right, sealed right, cemented right. And that's why they're doing the redundancy of triple casing and triple cementing, just added protections. And the second area where there's been contamination of water aquifers from abandoned wells. We have lots of abandoned wells here in Ohio from back from the 20s and 30s. And they're open. I had 3 on my farm when I bought my farm in Holmes County in 1975. I had found 3 casings coming up out of the ground. And it was kind of a funny story. I was on the Farm Bureau Policy Development meeting, and they were talking about the orphan well program. And they have a, state of Ohio, I think they still do, has a program to plug those wells, seal them. And so I said to the guy, you know, I think I got at least 3 of those. And they came out and did their research. Yeah, you do. You could drop a penny down, and, you know, at 45 seconds or so, you hear it splash. And so, you know, those things being open for decades, that's an open conduit to contamination of water aquifer. So that's, you know, that's what people need to be focused on, to make sure we do it right. So you need to, on this drilling, you need to make sure we've got the right oversight, regulatory in place, and we do here in Ohio, and to make sure everybody's doing it correctly. We don't have you know, bad operator out there cutting corners.
Congressman?
Yeah.
The Senate just passed the tax bill, which outlined the Democrats' position on the tax increase. And the House is going to pass next week their outline on the tax, to extend the taxes. What opportunities do you think there's going to be to do anything meaningful after the election, before the new administration takes over?
Well, we've got a lot on our plate. You know, we got the sequester, we got the tax increase, the dock fix. There's price more than anything more right now. package. What we're doing in the House, we're laying it out on the table. And I heard the speaker say yesterday, he's gonna allow the Democrats to put their bill on the floor next week too, in the House. I guess my understanding of the Senate, constitutionally, that it doesn't pass muster because it has to start, those type of bills have to start in the House, I guess. So that was more of I call it God information from Washington DC. So we're gonna pass next week to not let the tax increase go into effect. Obviously, the Senate won't be taking it up, I'm sure of that, before the election. We don't have a lot of legislative days left before the election. We're there next week, and we're there, I think, about 8 to 9 days in September, and then we're there after the election. So, on the tax increase, what will happen, depends what happens on that Tuesday in November.
Sure.
And so, depending on either way it goes, we'll have a very busy lame duck, and that would be very ugly, probably. And then, or we'll have a very busy, we won't have a very busy lame duck, we'll have a very busy first 20 days of January. At least on the tax thing, on the tax increase, we can make that retroactive. We can pass something in January, you don't have to really pay, you know. The other two areas I'm really concerned is the sequester is a big problem. It's the cuts because on defense it's fit with a 55% share of those cuts, and we just cut. You know, everybody's doing their share. What we're trying to propose, but we just cut the defense $480 billion over 10 years, $48 billion a year, and the sequester will do that or more. And our defense is really gutted if we let those second phase cuts go in. And the best of knowledge I can get after talking to the generals and seeing what's going on with involved in some of those briefings, say you want to lose 10 pounds, and you probably diet and exercise, knock that down off. And that's a little whatever, but that's
Graphic.
Yes. So that's a big concern because whatever we have there. We also have the appropriation process to fund the government. As you know, the fiscal year is September 30th. Right now they're talking, which I would support, pass I'm not big in these CRs, continuing resolutions, but I would support a 6-month continuing resolution at the levels we did in the last debt reduction act, and get us through the politics of the election. Because if we don't, then we'll have a possible government shutdown right before the election. There's other things. We've got the farm bill, which I'm involved in. It expires September 30th. Trying to get something done next week. Right now they're talking a 1-year extension because of the importance of that. A couple things right now. We've got the worst drought in the United States we didn't have the impact of what's happening there to rural America and all that. And then also 80% of the farm bill spending is food stamps. It's called something better than a nutrition stamp program, food stamps. And that all that runs out September 30th, except the food stamp part. That's a permanent law, and that would go on at current spending. For the farm, the other 20% of Title I, the farm support and the conservation title and all that would expire, and then you would go back to the 1949 law, which would be disastrous in the budget and everything else. So there's a lot on the plate. Since I've been in the last year and a half, a lot of it's just been extensions. But we have been able to cut discretionary spending and real cuts, not just the last 2 fiscal years. That's the first time since World War II. Most of the cuts Washington talks about is cuts in growth. Well, on the discretionary side, we were actually cutting real cuts. We're down to about 8 levels, but that's only like 25–30% of the budget. The rest of it's non-discretionary spending, mandatory spending. That's an autopilot, and that's why total spending is going up, because it's at least 3/4% of the budget, and it's growing because of those programs that we perform. So, I guess, Bill, I can't.